How's it going, everyone? I'm VenomousStare. I'm bringing you StarCraft 2 action. Zerg versus Protoss on the map Overgroth. The players are ROOT.Vibe and KingTesla, a guy who used to play under the ID Rob. And Overgroth is a very macro-oriented map. It's also what I would consider to be a generic map. The natural is easy to take. The third base is easy to take. The fourth base is relatively easy to take in the sense that you can take this pocket base back here that's close to your third, or you can go up to the gold. The main defining feature of this map is this gold base. It's kind of in a unique location. Sometimes people take it as their third, oftentimes the fourth. Sometimes you'll see Zergs do a proxy hatchery and then lay a couple tumors down and push up to the natural. So that's the unique feature of Overgroth, I would say. KingTesla, who I'll probably just call Rob, his old ID, has gone for a gateway, and he's made a nexus, so gateway expand for Rob, standard stuff. Meanwhile, Vibe has made a hatchery and then a pool, has not taken a gas, so we'll probably see a third base here for Vibe. Now Tesla can deduce this. He sees the pool timing and the lack of gas. He saw the drone go out. He knows what's going on. He doesn't literally see it, but he can deduce what's happening. The reason that the gas timing is important, and really the source of information, is because as Zerg you need the minerals early on to constantly make drones and queens. So you don't want to ever passively take gas for no reason. If you take the gas, you're going to use it in a very dedicated, conscious manner towards Zergling speed. So the fact that Vibe didn't take gas meant that he had extra minerals to go take the third very early. So if you're Protoss and you're scouting Zerg and they don't have a gas geyser, that's what that means. KingTesla just had his expansion finish. He's chrono boosting out an Adept. Now this is interesting. Adepts are useful for scouting. I would say Stalkers are useful for denying scouting is a good rule of thumb. So KingTesla is an aggressive player. He favors timings and not necessarily cheeses, but he's the kind of guy who wants to be in your face. He's not the player who is always trying to passively upgrade and take bases. More of the aggressive type. There's nothing wrong with that. Stylistically, those players provide interesting games, so we see him go for this Adept. Notice he's gone for 2 additional gateways in the main and a Twilight. So this indicates to me he wants to be aggressive. If he wanted to be passive, I would say he would have made these gates up here and finished his wall. So KingTesla kills a drone. Vibe pulls away, only loses the 1 drone. Now at the recent patch, the Adept Shade has less vision range. And what that means is, before when you sent the Shade in, you could see everything, pretty much like the Adept was there. Now whenever you send the Shade in, to be honest, it doesn't really give you a whole lot of vision. So you have to fully commit to your teleportation to scout. That means that you can no longer send the Shade in and get scouting information without risk. We saw Tesla there, wanted to get scouting info, and Vibe just happened to have the Lings there, a good defense. I mean, it wasn't dumb luck. Vibe had the Lings, he made them. But he had them in the right spot and trapped Tesla into a bad teleportation. And suddenly, if we go to Tesla's vision, he doesn't see what Vibe has. In other words, he doesn't see that Vibe's making a lair. Like, he didn't get full vision of his main because of where the Adept died, so he doesn't know how close Vibe is to having a complete lair. Vibe also has double upgrades on the way, and he has already made a Roach Warren. Now this is very important because Adepts are the unit of choice for Tesla, and Adepts counter Lings. So here come the Adepts at the third base. Vibe had Roaches coming, he had Lings coming. They go to the natural, and suddenly Tesla is met with a significant roach force. He's going to throw another shade into the main. Now he's taking severe damage, so he's probably just going to take the shade in and see where it gets him. VenomousStare has done an excellent job defending this. Notice he's gone roaches and lings. He has decent creep spread, so even though he delayed his ling speed in favor of drones, he was able to defend this. Now, he made slow zerglings and roaches. This is important because the slow zerglings constantly pressure the adepts and make it hard for them to kite. Notice he has his bases connected with creep. It would have been very, very hard to do anything with slow lings without his valuable creep tumors. And of course the roaches are good against adepts because they're not light units, they're armored units. So good defense by Vibe. Tesla's not out of it though, he has a third base on the way. Probes have already started to mine. This is good. This is, I would say, a good habit, is you don't want to get in the habit of underproducing workers. The newer you are at the game and the lower league you are, the more true this is. You always want to be making workers. So Tesla is continuously making workers even though he has 16 plus the 3 in gas in each base. Notice his DT shrine has been completed. Excuse me, his +1 is on the way. He has Immortals coming, his second robo just finished, as well as his robo support bay. So a solid macro game coming out of Tesla. He's going to try to drop some DTs in the base of Vibe. This is annoying, but Vibe already has an Overseer. A Queen immediately gets slaughtered, but the DTs are going to kill some Lings. And this is the problem with 4 DT Harass, is they actually do a lot of burst damage together. So even if you have a reasonable amount of Lings, say 14, or a dirty dozen, it's really not adequate because the DTs together actually do enough burst damage to kill the Lings. Tesla also warped in some adepts. They do a little bit of damage, but Vibe does a good job of reallocating his drones. He's only lost 5 drones all game. Vibe gets 1 Hydra slaughtered, pulls drones again. See Zerg players, this is what you want to do versus Harass. Don't be shy about pulling those drones, because even though it's a pain in the ass to reallocate them, it's better than losing them. Tesla's doing a good job of harassing here with DTs going from one base to the other. Notice he's pumping 2 Robo Colossus at home. He's begun his transition into a solid Protoss late game army. Vibe has Hydras at each corner, and he's going to snipe that base. You always have to be wary of flying right here with any sort of harass because you can get trapped here on Overgroth. This is a retro map, a throwback map to Heart of the Swarm, so I already know a lot of tricks of the trade to this map. So do most players. This is a pretty popular proxy spot, these spots right here, for Stargates, by the way. A lot of people try to take this base because it's gold, but this base is actually very safe and a solid fourth to take. Notice how Tesla is doing this around the 8-minute mark, and he's preemptively set up cannons. One thing that Tesla does well that Protoss players should try to copy is he always sets up a pylon, usually before he makes his expansions. But we see Vibe pressing in here, does a little bit of damage. Tesla runs over with his army, but Vibe can just run away. Notice he doesn't have Overlord speed, so he loses that Overseer. But what I was saying is, since Tesla makes this pylon probably before this expansion even starts, that's what we saw over here at the 3rd, he's able to get cannons down preemptively, and that prevents this expansion from being cancelled just by a silly little Ling counter. And that's a great move, because that can lose you the game, stupid little stuff like that. 2 DTs are moving out for Tesla. Despite him losing the Warp Prism, he's continuing to harass, another move that Protoss players should try to replicate. Vibe is making 12 drones, he's teching to Hive, and his 4th base is under siege. Remember, he lost his Overseer in his main army over here with this attack. He does not have OV speed. That has made it very hard to deal with DT harass, and Tesla has continuously harassed with DTs. So Vibe loses his 4th. That's a pretty big deal considering Tesla has a 4th of his own already established in mining. So I would say that Tesla is ahead this game. Vibe doesn't even have his Hive completed yet. He has a Spire on the way, so he might tech in to Broodlords. That is interesting because Tesla did not go Stargate. He did not open Phoenix, which is what we see oftentimes in this matchup. And he did not tech into Stargate after. He went Robo into double, or excuse me, he went DT into double Robo and Twilight, as well as Templar Archives. So there he goes with his first Stargate, but he doesn't already have a Stargate. He doesn't already have a Phoenix count. That will be those will be things to consider when we consider, or those will be things to consider if Vibe goes into Broodlords, which he's already getting Greater Spire. Tesla has 4 Colossus already, a nice Colossus backbone established, which means that Vibe can't really do anything with Zerglings. Notice that Vibe is spreading creep in a very even way all the way across the map. This is very good because he will be warned of a ground attack if it comes, and it also means Tesla will always have to be worried about having an observer. As Zerg, you always want to throw something in a composition, not just with Zerg, this is true with any race. If you can throw something in your army composition that makes your opponent always have to have detection, that's something that is not only powerful and can win you games, but is something that is very frustrating to play against. And even if you're playing at a very high level, it's something that is irritating to play against and something that even good players can fall victim to. As you see, Vibe goes for a little bit of a Ling counter here, and Tesla has so many pylons established down here at this fort that he can just do mass overcharge. And Vibe had a lot of Lings, so he did some reasonable damage, but at the end of the day, thanks to Tesla's pylons and cannons, he really didn't lose all that much. As you see, he's behind just 3 workers, which is fine if you're Protoss. Vibe is starting to tech into Broodlord here. He has 5 already making. And it's interesting to note that, sure, Tesla made the Stargate, but he hasn't started making Voids. He hasn't made carriers or, a fleet beacon or anything of that nature. He just kind of made the Stargate and didn't do anything with it. Blink is about to finish, so that will be very crucial to dealing with Broods. But if somehow Vibe can get a good engagement off, Tesla will be hard-pressed to win, because at the end of the day he doesn't really have anything that can deal with Broodlord Infestor. He has something that can completely dominate on the ground as far as an army composition goes. Stalkers, Immortals, Archons, and of course the Colossus, which is the backbone of his army. He's at +3 if we go to upgrades. Both players have been upgrading well. Notice that Vibe has Neuroparasite, so he'll be able to mind control the Colossus. Here we have a bit of an engagement. As you see, it was just some Hydras dying. So Rob blinks forward, and a counterattack at the 4th base. A little bit of Roachling. Oh, a big Fungal going down. And Vibe can chain Fungal if he wants. But at the end of the day, here come Vibe's Broodlords, and they're going to get some nice damage. Rob does not have his Mothership Core. KingTesla is in trouble. The Protoss player blinks forward aggressively, but Vibe has Fungal, so KingTesla gets his entire army Fungaled, and Vibe can continue to chain Fungal. He has a few Broods left. He only has 4, but Rob is running out of anti-air, and he has a counterattack at his 4th base and in his main. His DT Trun took a little bit of damage. His 4th base fell, but if we look at actual damage, Vibe didn't lose a base. Vibe has been fine. Ooh, Rob blinked forward aggressively there. He's playing very aggressively into these Broodlords, but you have to be very careful when you fight into Broodlord Infestor, because once you do an aggressive blink, it's like Jarvan 4 in League of Legends. You're trapped in there with him. Oftentimes if you do that aggressive blink forward, you're just trapped because the Zerg can just easily Fungal. Ooh, and Mind Control coming down, Neural Parasite. So Vibe saying for the Swarm and taking control of these highly expensive Protoss units. He also has 4 Broods. KingTesla has this 4th base established. But Vibe has a very hard to beat army. And KingTesla has retained a lot of these money units. And Vibe loses a lot of Lings for not much there. Just some laser beams. He's going to run in here with the Roach Ling that he used to destroy the 4th. try to counterattack. It's not really going to do him any good, but he was just trying to free up supply, possibly there. Remember that the new infestors can cast abilities while burrowed, so the fact that Vibe has these burrowed means that unless Rob has a observer over his army, he's going to have trouble knowing where the infestors are. Hypothetically, they could always be hiding out over around the army. Because if we go to units, Rob has one observer, okay? He's scouting forward with it. This means if the infestors were over here and he pushed up, he could get flanked from the side. This means if the infestors are with the army, he's not going to see them unless the observer, is over the army. So it's a bit of a tricky situation here for Rob, as he's low on money. KingTesla, Rob, same person. As his one observer is hanging over this fourth base, dangerously close to the spore. Both players doing a bit of a dance. Ooh, Rob dances forward dangerously with the blink there, and it pays off as the infestors were not with the Hydras. And suddenly Vibe loses a few Hydras for free, but if we go to the natural, he's run Lings in again and done some damage. He's unpowered a Robo, and here comes the big engagement. Fungal onto everything. Broodlords are there with the Hydraling. Aw shit. Wrong expansion. GG, says Rob. And I'm going to do a little bit of instant replay there at the end, because a lot happened at once. So what happened, in my opinion, is that Vibe did this big counterattack and distracted Rob. So here's the phony counterattack to free up supply. But you're going to see here that Vibe has this dangerous composition with these burrowed infestors I was prattling on about. Notice in the production tab that Roberto here, neither one of his robos here are making an observer. So he just has that one observer to see infestors. He doesn't even have the ability to look. He has this one observer, it's just looking forward. That means that he has no observer on his army and no observer on Vibe's army, so he can be caught off guard with the new burrowed infestor at any time. So here, KingTesla, aka Rob, has a very powerful army, but Vibe is going to do a counterattack with these Zerglings, distract Rob, do severe damage to his infrastructure, force him into a fight, and take the game. This is one thing you can do, especially on ladder, against ladder opponents, and this is true for the lower leagues especially. If you do big counterattacks against Protoss and Terran that do significant damage, they will oftentimes just become irritated and attack you. So here we see the blink that did the damage to the Hydras, and his natural is being ravaged. So let's pause right here. The one observer is over here. So if we go to KingTesla's vision, everything just got fungled, and he can't even see where it's from. So now he's just caught in chain fungal. And his natural, notice how these structures have been shut down, his base is about to die. And notice how his fourth is dead too. And Vibes are alive and kicking. So let's watch the final engagement. And he has one Templar here that dies. And he just gets chain fungled into with Broodlords. And if you get chain fungled and Broodlords are sitting over a cliff and attacking you, it's a very bad situation to be in. So that was an interesting game. Rob had some nice Warp Prism harass early on in the game, but Vibe teched a Broodlord Infestor as well as Hydra and did some Ling counterattacks to win the game. If you enjoyed that, subscribe for more.